What's going on, Bills Mafia? Welcome. Good evening. How we doing? Happy Victory Monday. Welcome to Buffalo Late Night. Guys, this is the day after Christmas. It is a wonderful, wonderful day. Our team is 12-3. Things are good. It's feeling good. We're doing good. Now, guys, again, welcome to Buffalo Late Night on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, presented to you by Picasso's Pizza. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's, we are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Thomas DeLoss. First things first, before I get too deep into all this, I just want to do a real quick second to send our thoughts and prayers to everybody out there, all our brothers and sisters in Buffalo currently dealing with this horrific winter, this storm, whatever you want to call it, that has already claimed the life of 28 Western New Yorkers. It's something. Obviously, just coming from a pretty brutal storm, not just 2 weeks ago, and then going right back into this. Obviously, we're all thinking of you guys, praying vigilantly and hoping for the absolute best, hoping for everything to get cleared up so you guys can get home and we can get back to normal. That being said, thank you for tuning in tonight. Or if you are listening on Spotify, happy Tuesday. You can find our show free on all social media and streaming platforms, including Spotify and YouTube. And if you're watching on Twitter right now, if you're watching on Jay Spence the King's Twitter, feel free to go over to the YouTube page, YouTube at Buffalo Rumblings SBN. Hit that subscribe button and join the conversation. We'd love to have you. Also, before I get into introducing our guest tonight, I just want to say a very direct message to Elon Musk. For the love of God and all that is holy, please get rid of this incessant advertising you've dumped onto us in the past week. It is exhausting, and I promise you that no one cares who Lisa Barlow is. We are all aware of the new Pixel phone, and I am sure that we do not need any more info on the new Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell movie. So please do us all a favor and get rid of that crap and stop the shenanigans already. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have two fantastic guests, two people who for the very first time are joining the show. I'm surprised it's taken this long. But we have first up the co-host of the Three Man Rush podcast alongside Buffalo Bills great Jerry Ostrowski, straight from Chi-Town in a hotel room, Miss Sara Larson. Also, we have the host of the RatedRev podcast on the Buffalo Fanatics Network, my brother, Rev. What's going on, folks?
What's going on, Thomas? Glad to be here, man. Appreciate you guys for having me on.
Absolutely. Sara, how you doing up there in Chi-Town?
A little cold. Actually, it's a little bit better today than it has been. I said that the negative 25 degrees kind of prepared me for today. So today I was walking around 19 degrees and I actually felt a little warm. So it was nice. So now I might get a couple of days of some sightseeing, and since I can't get out till Thursday.
I honestly, I don't know how you guys handle that cold weather. I'm a Texas guy. And just the thought of that weather, man, it just, I get cold. You won't see my black self at anywhere in that kind of cold weather at all.
Well, Rev, I actually live in South Florida. I live in Fort
Oh, do
Lauderdale.
you? Oh,
Yeah,
dang, never
so
mind.
yeah, so my son's been out of school, so I've been spending basically the last 2 weeks up in New York, and I've been traveling for the last 2 years to all
Okay.
the Bills games. So I haven't missed one. I'm on 37 straight. So I had to do anything
Wow.
possible to get to Chicago. So
Nice.
and I did, but so I've been up here for the last couple of weeks, freezing my behind off. But yeah, so my son goes back to school the 7th or 8th of January, depending on what Bills game, what day that Bills game ends up being. So that's when I'll finally go back to South Florida and then fly back
Okay.
for the playoffs.
Okay, nice. Never mind. Then I'll take it back.
Yeah, so trust me, I'm not used to this.
I'm a mailman by trade. I spend all my days. So literally Friday and Saturday when the weather was hitting, the shit was hitting the fan. I was out there walking the streets. I promise you couldn't pay me to sit in that stadium in Chicago and watch that stuff happen.
It was
I love
cool.
the Buffalo Bills. Not doing it.
It was
I don't
cool.
know. I don't know how they did it. I was sitting there like, golly, man, I'm
I
enjoying
had
my warmth.
I had 7 layers on, like legitimately 7 layers on, and it was cold. It was really cold.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, at least you had a good time.
Yeah,
And
of
they
course.
didn't ruin it for
Nah,
you.
we got that W. So.
There you go.
Well, before we get too deep into things, I just want to say hello to a couple people. We got Robbie716 Sports in here. Jim Bilak, welcome. Double R, Richard Rush, welcome, my friend. The W, what's going on? And Daryl Fletcher, how you guys doing tonight? If you guys are watching on Twitter, come on, hop on over. Come and join the conversation. You can't talk. It's like staring outside somebody's window from inside their house. It's the weirdest feeling. Just come get in here, get your feet wet. Let's talk. Now, moving on, we do have a resident injury specialist here at Buffalo Late Night. That is our guy, Banged Up Bills, Dr. Kyle Trimble. Kyle, what's going on tonight, my friend?
Hey, everyone. Good to see you.
What's going on, man? Kyle, obviously we are now 12-3 heading into the final 2 games of the season and a big-time matchup this Monday night against the Bengals. How are we looking injury related?
It's starting to look better. There's a few notable injuries coming out of the game, though nothing appeared to be too serious. Dawson Knox suffered a minor hip pointer. He landed real hard early in the first. It looked as though he had landed on his right shoulder first, just suggesting maybe the AC joint sprain, but he said after the game he landed more on his hip, and then when it looked back at the replay, he lands a split second more on the that crest of your hip there, body part. So it's gonna be more pain than anything, but that shouldn't stop him from playing next week. We also did see Ryan Bates get rolled up on, and he came back with a break, still played pretty well. Maybe a minor MCL sprain, but he still played pretty well. He shouldn't be missing time. And the hope is he can move back to right guard, or excuse me, left guard, whenever Mitch. But he served, and he appeared to do pretty well there at center role when he was asked to step up. And then Jordan Phillips, he didn't officially get an injury designation in the game, but he had to leave several times due to that right. It appeared though he suffered his labrum tear against the Patriots. He missed the last 2 games, came back. He had kinesio tape all over the shoulder, a brace on there, and it just seemed like every time he hit with that trouble wrapping guys up. I thought he would miss the game because it's the Chicago Bears. They're not a formidable opponent. So I thought they'd give him another week. He wanted to get back out there, but we also saw that when he came back from his hamstring strain early in the year, this year, he struggled when he came back from that. So that might just be him saying, hey, I'm ready to go. And then realizing I can't. So those are the other ones I noticed. He looked to injure his hand, but they're going to be getting those fingers dislocated, broken, whatnot. So I don't think that's much of anything. So we're looking pretty good heading into Cincinnati. And then hope that Mitch Morse can come back, and Kingsley Jonathan did pretty well in his placement. So it's nice to know that we have depth even on the practice squad for guys that, we have to be out for injury like that.
In regards to the next 2 games, is there anybody that concerns you that will potentially be of impact to not be able to play?
For the opposing teams?
Correct.
For the opposing teams. So that Cincinnati, I've said this could probably be I don't want to say the biggest game of the season because it seems like every week is the biggest game of the season. But I know that the Bengals be without the right tackle. Lyle suffered a ACL, an ACL and MCL sprain. Let me start over. He suffered an ACL tear and MCL sprain on his left side, so he's done for the season. That's gonna be a big loss for their. Sam Hubbard's still working through a calf injury, one of their defensive ends. Trey Hendrickson, their other defensive end, he's working through a broken wrist. He played last week, and I don't think he did a ton, but still, he's a hittable opponent, especially to the offensive tackle. They have they have a bunch of injuries themselves, but most of their guys are playing through their stuff. They only had Sam Hubbard ruled out last week, and then a few guys I don't recall whether they played, but we're beat up. It just might come down to whose quarterback is better next Monday night.
Okay. And we got Jim Bilek asking about Jordan Phillips' injury.
Mm-hmm. So there wasn't one definitive play. It was just the fact that he was having a block. And when he blocks the arm out straight, that's putting stress on the shoulder. That's where the force is going to when he's blocking like that. And if the labor, which means think of it like a golf tee, and if you have a chip in that golf tee, that ball's not going to sit in there properly, that labrum helps deepen the socket so the ball can move around, how the humerus can move around there effectively. So when that labrum is torn, the ball is going to slide out of there more easily. So every time he's going to is jarring that ball around and potentially causing what's called subluxation, which is partial dislocation. So it might pop out and pop back in. And that's what it seemed to happen in the second quarter. And then so it seemed like he went to go wrap up and just probably shift a little bit on. And speaking of personal experience, that's not a fun feeling when you feel your shoulder shift around like that. I tore my labrum in high school and I still dealt with that after the fact. So you do anything you can to kind of make that sensation stop. I will say when you dislocate, it's not fun at all. But once you get that back in, it feels cool. I don't know that he dislocated again, but we're going off the assumption that he did because the timeline seems to fit that. But he's going to continue to struggle through. I don't know that I would want to see him play next week. When that he's going to be a better option than some other practice squad guys. So it's something he's going to battle through. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. I guess don't go chasing after Mac Jones.
And then we got one more for you. Any update on Christian Benford?
So he suffered that oblique injury. I had to think for a second. I almost want to say core muscle, which wasn't the case there. Oblique injury back against the Lions. I believe he is eligible now. He served his 4-game minimum on IR. We don't see oblique injuries taking that long. So I don't know whether they said, hey, you're hurt. Let's just hold you out. The Kyrie Elam, he was working through his injury. That's just all, my thoughts though on that. But it's just during how they handle that quarterback position. But I think when they do bring him back up, he's going to be full. I feel like if it was a core muscle repair, you could play through that, but we see guys be really ineffective. I don't know that he would have gotten a repair, but a 4-week injury like that, I feel like it would have been pretty severe. He should ramp up pretty quickly. He might just say, hey, let's put you on IR, get some other guys up there because they can cut Xavier Rhodes' zone. He's not going to go anywhere and probably come back to practice squad versus, cutting somebody else. Isaiah Hodgins, for example, who did leave. I'm hoping he's going to come back this week, and I can see them bringing him back because, Dane Jackson hasn't been great. But you don't also want to cut Dane Jackson right before the playoffs either.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think it's something that they'll look into. I know they'll probably not want to risk rushing him back too soon, knowing that we have that, depending if we get that, that bye week, that's just a little bit more time of cushion. But I guess we'll see, as to where we are. Any last notes or anything else you want to hit on?
No, this next week's gonna be really big, and then you hope that we get the win. At this point, being a Bills fan, you expect to get the win just with how well they're playing, and then hoping that you lock up the number 1 seed, and you can just rest. New England's they're dealing with the host of injuries themselves, and that kind of follows up to the question you had asked earlier. They have so many guys deal with injuries, and they're somehow still in playoff contention. I don't know how, because the way they're gonna be fighting. But rest the guys you need to, because especially if you can give some guys 2 weeks off, that could be a lifetime for some of these guys dealing with the injuries. I mean, we know Poyer's playing through something. We know Matt Milano through something. Mitch Morse, he should hopefully once he starts practicing again. All those guys are just beat up. Josh Allen's still working through his elbow injury, though. He looked really good, the past 2 games here. So it's just a matter of just getting these guys to make that final sprint to the finish Super Bowl. But I just get that number 1 seed and get some rest.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Kyle, as always, we definitely appreciate it. You can find all of Kyle's content on BangedUpBills.com or BangedUpBills on Twitter. He's actually very responsive and interactive.
I try to be. I try to be.
So make sure to give him a follow. Make sure to check out his content. He does some great stuff, and obviously he's every week on Monday nights here on Buffalo Late Night. So, Kyle, as always, we truly appreciate you, and we will see you next week.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, brother. Now, guys, first things first, I want to wish everybody a very, very belated Merry Christmas. I don't know if that's a thing I say with birthdays.
Sounds good.
I hope you guys all had a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Everybody that's watching, you two here. And then also, aside from that, myself and my wife, obviously, we're expecting a child within the next 3 weeks. It's crazy. I don't know how 9 months went that fast. But as a soon-to-be father, I, as many parents do, want the best for their children. And that starts with their dentist. Dr. Zach Mills, my cousin, the guy who I'm going to actually be spending this New Year's with, and his practice, A Dentist for Kids, is who my wife and I will be sending our son Griffin to. A Dentist for Kids offers individual dental treatment for kids of all ages by providing a relaxed, fun, and encouraging environment. Dr. Zach's goal is to help your child build confidence in their smile and with their overall dental health. A Dentist for Kids is currently accepting new patients, and they participate with most major insurances. So, if you visit Dr. Zach, mention Buffalo Late Night for $25 off your choice of a custom whitening kit or an electric toothbrush. Call today to set up an appointment with Dr. Zach and his team, 585-538-7230. You can also check out bflolatenight.com. Click the link where it says AD4K and take it all over there and all about their fantastic practice. He is really that good. Moving on, after all that word jumble, we are going to start tonight's show off with a more serious topic in terms of player safety. As we found out today, that for the third time in as many months, Tua Tagovailoa has entered the concussion protocol following the game on Sunday against the Packers. We've seen the seriousness of CTE in the post-NFL life in athletes and many other industries, including WWE and others. Should Tua consider seeking medical consultation about whether he should potentially step away from football?
You want me to take that first? I'll take it, Thomas. Look, I was just having a conversation with some of the guys in the group chat about this. And you know what? If I'm Tua, I don't trust anybody right now. Because there was a clip that I saw posted on Twitter where there was a play where he actually banged his head and they were kind of wondering if this was when he, this is a matter of fact, before they even found out that he was in the concussion protocol, but they were just wondering if he could have gotten injured, by this at this particular play. And I'm looking at what, this is ridiculous. Like, this is his third concussion in the same season. Like, we have Mitch Morse who's on his 6th concussion in 8 years in his career, and we're wondering, like, okay, that last one, man, does he need to get ready to call it quits? 3 in 1 year is ridiculous. It's concerning. And if I'm Tua, especially the way that the Dolphins have handled the first one, right, and then even the second one, because had he not been playing in the first place during the whole investigation, he wouldn't have been in the game to get that concussion. And so I'm looking outside of the organization. I'm not trusting the NFL right now. I'm getting outside consultation to figure out what's the best thing that I can do for my career. But as a young guy, you've got to imagine that he's just willing to do whatever it takes just to get back on the field and play, regardless of his health.
Yeah, I was just going to say at some point, though, we got to put a little bit on Tua because, I think it happened in the second quarter and he went back in, and same thing he did in the previous game. He came back in after half and he knew he shouldn't be playing, but he was anyways. And then it was the excuses and the excuses and excuses after the game. So I feel like at some point he has to finally say, okay, enough's enough. Let me go and get another opinion. But I think that if they lose again, he's probably definitely going to say, okay, I'm not going to go back and play. But if he has a chance where he clears, concussion protocol and they still are in the hunt for the playoffs, I see him trying to take the field again.
Right. I think the tough thing is here, and man, it's I've heard a lot of different perspectives on this. Like people have said that they'd rather get a knee injury than a head injury. They'd rather have a head injury than a knee injury. When it comes to this type of stuff, and obviously it's the dichotomy of it is difficult alone because you're looking at it from a fan's perspective of you need to worry about like, oh, these guys are real human beings. And I think sometimes there's a disconnect with that alone. But then on the other side of, the fact that we all sit there and love this game that is vicious. I mean, it's dangerous beyond anything else. A lot of players like Rob Gronkowski. I was listening to WGR the other day, and somebody that knows the family, one of Rob's brothers will not allow his son to play football because of the actual brain issues that Rob Gronkowski's had since stepping away from football. And when it comes to something like this with Tua, I agree, Sarah. It's kind of that protect the player from themselves mentality. Sean McDermott has said it himself. And it's tough because when it comes to an NFL athlete, the average length of an actual career is 3.5 years. Tua's going into year 4, and he's already had 3 concussions in 3 months.
Right.
In a time where this is probably the one season where he has, broken all expectations. He has become more than what anybody ever anticipated. And it's his chance that if he did really well, he could get a massive, massive contract. Massive. One of the best, right? That's the tough thing for him because he's playing for his family. And then on top of it, which I think is something that has to be said, and if you watch the Manti Te'o documentary, you'll find this out too. Tua Tagovailoa is of the Samoan descent, of the Islander descent. And when you come to that, part of being a man in that type of heritage or that type of lineage is doesn't matter what happens, no matter what you go through, you're a man, you fight through it, you continue on, you persevere, you're strong, you're tough, you're the man of the family, right? So for him, it's tough. It's really tough because he's trying to have the weight of the world of a franchise that's trying to believe in him. He's trying to do everything right by his family. And then he's also trying to do everything in his own career because he came back from a terrible hip injury in Alabama. So it seems like every time he gets to the peak and he's fighting and fighting and fighting, he just keeps getting injured again.
Right.
So I'm sure for him, this is unbelievably difficult because he has to make the best possible decision for himself, his team, and his family. But at that same time, at a certain level, and I agree with you, Rev, when do you start questioning if people really have his back or if it's more of they're using him to get to the playoffs? Because you've seen the owner, Ross, I can't remember his first name. You've already seen that he's done very, very grimy, questionable things to this point.
Very shady. Yeah.
So why would he not continue that path of least resistance to get to where he wants to be?
I think he was even suspended for the first 6 games. Stephen Ross he wasn't able to.
Yeah.
Steven, thank you.
Yeah. So I my only thing with Tua is I just feel like he's trying to kind of shake that narrative of he's not good enough. So now that he's had a good season, I feel like he's one of the ones throwing himself out there, and he wants to play, and someone else needs to step in and say enough's enough, in my opinion. So
they have to step in, and when when the news broke about this concussion, I'm thinking, how in the world did they miss it? Like what? Like how is he in the game? And nobody saw anything. Whether
it was a
that
back injury again.
Right, another back injury. Yeah, come on now, really.
Yeah.
And so nobody saw it happen, and he didn't have any of those physical traits, about with the concussion is concerned. And all of a sudden, the day after the game, all of a sudden he's in concussion protocol. It's weird, right? And everybody's just trying to, I don't know what happened. This is kind of a surprise thing. Something shady's going on. I don't understand it. But if I'm a family of Tua, because I can imagine, I'm glad you had circle back to this, Thomas, is that he's trying to secure that he has a lot of just a lot of responsibility, and going into his 4th year after this year, he is definitely trying to secure himself and his family financially, right? And so for him to be faced with the reality that you may have to call it quits is possibly a tough pill for him to swallow. So he's kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place right now, and he needs somebody else on the outside to shoot him straight. Because at this point, I just don't know how much you can really trust the Dolphins, especially the way that they've already handled the first two. On top of this one, it's a tough thing, man. And I hate it for the guy because he's gone through a lot in his career already, so much adversity, and he seems like a good guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, outside of what we may think of him as Bills fans or whatnot, he seems like a good guy. And you want the best for him. It's just an unfortunate situation he's having to deal with.
For sure. Moving on, obviously this past Saturday, the Bills beat the Chicago Bears in Chicago, where Sarah still resides. This was a big game for the Bills as they were able to continue their path to the number 1 seed in the conference amidst Arctic-like temperatures. We saw a run game come alive with the likes of a 33-yard scamper from Devin and a 27-yard touchdown from the new nickname, which I heard, which is weird, coined by Josh himself, our good friend James Jimbo Cook.
Yeah.
What was your guys' reactions to this Saturday's game?
Oh, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go first because at one point I looked up and I was like, we have 250 yards rushing. Where did this come from? And it was a very cold game. You could hear the hits, like it was like you were literally on the field. I mean, I was front row, so I was gonna hear it anyways. But there was a couple of hits that were just literally bone crunching. So how hard it had to be to play in that weather, and how much even just to tackle. Like, there was a couple of times where I was the first drive where we allowed them to score. I was like, you can tell no one wanted to tackle. It was like the worst feeling seeing them march down the field. But eventually we kind of picked it up, and maybe they warmed up a little bit, and it was a little bit different towards the end of the game. But seeing Singletary and Cook, pick it up was awesome. I think Singletary had just over 100. Cook had 99, which I was really sad. But I had seen today that we had the second longest streak of not having a 100-yard rusher. So it was nice to break that and get Singletary his. I wish Cook would have been able to break the 100. But total all-purpose yards, they both were over 100 for all-purpose yards. So it was good. It was fun watching us have the running game. I think Singletary's 33 yards was the most of his, hit that one run was his longest of his career too, which was nice to, it was like all in one game. It's like, we have a running game. What are you guys talking about? You know, so.
I was laughing at, I mean, like at that touchdown, it looked like he was chugging as hard as he could to get in that, because we know Singletary is he's not a fast guy, right? They call him motor, but he doesn't have any speed, and he seemed like he was trying to do everything he could to get in that end zone. And so to see him break that off, I was like, oh man, there you go, motor. I'm glad he did it, man. It was fun.
Yeah,
it was a fun game. Yeah, my thoughts, man. Initially, and I may step on some toes, but to be honest, even though I'm glad that we got the win, right? I'm glad we got the win, but I was not impressed at all by the way we got it, especially the first half performance by the offense, right? I mean, initially encouraged, right, by that first touchdown that they scored on their first offensive series, but after that, it looked absolutely terrible. I mean, you had the offense looking completely out of sync and anemic. I mean, the following 3 drives after that touchdown score to end the first half ended an interception to McKenzie, which we may touch on that a little bit later. The interception to McKenzie, a punt, and then a missed field goal. So I'm like, what is going on here with this offense? The only saving grace to me at that particular time was that we were playing the Bears, because the Bears didn't look as much better as well when you look at their drives, turnover on downs, a punt, and a field goal after theirs. So if not for the fact that we were playing the Bears, it could have gone a whole lot differently. But, and here's a big but though. Here's a big but, and this is what gives me encouragement, is that they had a huge turnaround in the second half, and we all know what happened. I mean, 29 points total in the second half. All of a sudden, it's like Ken Dorsey figured out that we have a running game, like you said, Sarah, that it was working so good. I'm like, why are you going away from it? And he finally decided, let's just run the ball. Let's not try to have Josh Allen throwing it 40 times, in this kind of weather. Let's turn around and hand the ball off, and it finally worked. And I'm glad he did it. I don't know why it took him a whole half to decide to do it, but nevertheless, we got the win.
Yeah, it was. I will say that a lot of times this year I've complained about adjustments at half, so it felt good to come back out and see some of those adjustments happen. But I will say, we can't keep on making the mistakes that we've been making, because a better
Mhm.
team's going to exploit us for it. I mean, we had 2 interceptions, a fumble. Like, we can't
Yeah.
do that. We left 4 points on the board with the missed field goal and the missed point after. So,
Mhm.
realistically, if we don't turn the ball over, those 2 times, especially where we turned them over, the game could have been even more of a blowout. So we
Right.
just have to look at, going forward, especially as we head into the postseason. Josh has got to figure out what is going on with all these turnovers, and he's got to protect the ball more.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll tell
100%.
you, I think there is something to be said for the fact that Josh is not throwing the ball during the week, because every game since that injury, when he's not throwing the ball in the week, he just comes out and he looks very, very rusty. He makes very
Mhm.
just erratic passes, bad decisions. It doesn't seem like the Josh of old, where the first prior to the injury, he started out and he was really lighting the world on fire right out of the gate. I mean, I think we had 6 games in a row where we scored on the very first drive. That
Yeah.
hasn't happened yet. So I think that's something to be concerned with. But what I will tell you, and I told this to my stepmother the other day on Christmas Eve, we lost or we won, right? We put up 35 points. And for sure, the first half was not to be desired. But what has to be said is the fact that in those conditions, in that weather, with everything else we've dealt with just the nonstop up and down upheaval of this season, the fact that they still put 35 points on an NFL team on a week like that, in those conditions, with those injuries, without Mitch Morse, with a litany of injuries already on the team, that's impressive, right? Because no
Yeah.
matter how you win in the NFL is already difficult, but to put up 35 points against I wouldn't say bad Bears team. I would say it's a dysfunctional Bears team that needs to clean up some things to be
Mhm.
potentially good. Uh, I think the Bills should be, applauded for everything they've gone through. I mean, and
Yeah,
just
no
in
doubt.
general, you have to think on the other part about it is the Bills are going into Chicago on Christmas or Christmas Eve. Their minds are in different places. Like, as much as they want to sit there and say they're worried about football, that they're thinking about their families back home and on Christmas and all the people in
Yeah.
Buffalo and everything that's going on. There's just so much out there. And like, to just be able to just focus in and have tunnel vision in those moments is incredibly difficult. But the one thing I will say, and I was looking this up right here, is one, Devin Singletary, 8.8 per carry.
Mhm.
James Cook, 9.0 per carry. The Bills this season have 2,100 yards on the ground this season. And that's really on what most people consider a deficient Bills run game.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary carrying 4.6 yards per attempt. James Cook, 5.8. I'll tell you what, the one thing that I think is important to really kind of take a step back and look at is if we can find a good rhythm, because no one ever said, let's become a run first team. What I
Mhm.
think people are
Yeah.
saying is if we can use the run game effectively in moments that call for it, that's all that we
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Because you saw the ability to thread James Cook in there or Devin Singletary in there to give Josh some time, to give Josh the ability to feel like he's got complemented offense.
Mhm. Mhm.
It made his mind a little bit more at ease. The same thing as bringing Cole Beasley back, right?
Yeah.
Those little things that you can do to make Josh feel more comfortable during the game. That's the difference between him winning and losing, I think, at this point.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and and this is kind of why I've been like so hard on Dorsey at times is that when you have a guy like Josh Allen, it is so easy just to fully trust and rely on Josh and be like, hey, we've got at the end of the day we got Josh Allen and we're fine, and that's your game plan. The game plan is Josh Allen, But
Always.
when you have other weapons, I mean, you have to be able to utilize them, and then sometimes like Josh is going to be off. He's going to have those games where he's just not quite on it, and so in those moments, you need to be able to shift away from Josh. And if that means handing the ball off to Motor or to James Cook and getting the running game established so that Josh is able to kind of get back in a rhythm, then so be it. If you have to change some plays up a little bit to get Josh in an early rhythm, so be it. I think for so long Dorsey's just content with just, hey Josh, this is your team, go ahead and handle it. And then like when he has to do it, then he says, okay, well, you know what, my bad. Let's just change some things up. Like it took 2 quarters for them to decide to run the ball. Like that was frustrating to me the entire first half. Granted, we whooped them 35-13, but it could have been a lot better. And that's kind of my only concern at this moment is like, you know what? I think they take a little bit too long at times to figure out what works best for them. I sometimes I call Dorsey Mr. Opposite. It's like sometimes he does the opposite of what he should be doing. Like weather like this against Chicago, you should be running the ball, but instead he wants to throw the ball. And he finally decided to run it later on. In games where it's sunny, he wants to run the ball instead of passing it. Sometimes he just I think he's kind of figuring things out as he goes as well. First year offensive coordinator, maybe I'm a little bit too hard on him, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're winning these games, and which is very remarkable considering the fact that they've gone through so much adversity. But it lets me know that the only team that can really defeat the Bills are the Bills. Really, like that's the only team that I think that can really beat them. If they're on their A game and they're playing clean football, there's nobody who can beat them.
Yeah, and I've said that emphatically. I think the Bills match up with anybody at any point. And really what that comes down to, and I know it's cliche, it's low-hanging fruit, but Josh Allen is really, that's the answer. That's the antidote, right? That is the guy that no matter what happens, I mean, come on. The guy had what for most quarterbacks would be a season-ending injury. Not for Josh. He played the same very week, right?
Yeah.
Like, he is every bit determined to make sure that he brings a championship back to Buffalo, and he'll be damned if he doesn't try to do it this season too. I think what you've seen thus far this season, I think is the most impressive season, alone for the fact that they're 12-3, and obviously that's again low-hanging fruit. What they've endured this season with the games, they played 7 out of 17 games at home. The rest of them have been either in terrible conditions, primetime games. I think they've only played 2 1:00 games this season. So the fact that of all that, they've dealt with all of these conditions and still been 12-3 going into 2 games where they could pretty much write their own destiny is ridiculous.
It's remarkable.
I do want to pick on you guys that you keep on saying the 35-13. We didn't need that last touchdown. We really didn't. So the garbage time touchdown, it makes it look a lot better than it really was. But that's why I was laughing a little bit because I was a little surprised when I saw him throw it to Knox. I was like, did he really just throw that on 4th down? I like with 50 seconds left, I was like, wow. But I mean, we got it. So it just padded the stats a little bit and the score.
I'll tell you this, Sarah, there is always a reason for everything. And I don't doubt that was absolutely something that they're testing out to use in the playoffs.
Oh, I'm sure. 100%, and there's reasons to go for it. And this, if you kick it and something, doesn't go right on the kick, even though we were in field goal range, there was a lot of reasons, why you go for it, but I just thought it was funny that we went for it. I was almost not paying attention at that point, and I was like, holy crap, touchdown. But and then the only other thing I wanted to say is a lot of people touch on our running game, and yes, we do have over 2,100 yards at this point. We do have to admit though that Josh is 700 and something of those yards, and I'm not saying let's take Josh out of the run game and stuff like that, but I'm glad that he has been coming out of it just a little bit. So he is not the focal point when it comes to the run game. Once in a while we'll do a couple of the design runs, which I'm fine with. I loved his touchdown run. It was perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping that he was going to do. I say it all the time. I'm like, please, when we're that close to the end zone, do these bootlegs and have him be able to just run it in. So I'm not saying take the ball out of his hands at all when it comes to the run game, but I just think that in the beginning of the season it was all him. He was our leading rusher for most of the season, so I'm glad that it's not that. I'm glad Singletary and Cook are now starting to come alive. We need it because
Sarah, I'll tell you this much with all of that. Here's the thing. As much as it seems like Josh is running less, he's actually having statistically his best running season. Running less the last couple of weeks is what I'm saying, not this season. He has 700 and something yards, and his yards per carry are ridiculous. So you want to keep the ball in his hands. So I definitely look at it that way. But especially if we're gonna have the playoffs go through Buffalo, we're going to want that run game, especially if we're going to, we have no clue what the weather is going to be like, those weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the team has to establish this run game, and I'm glad that they're finally doing it to a degree. I definitely think it was by design, especially in the offseason when you go back there and you hear, because I remember vividly listening to Sean McDermott and even Brandon Bean. I think this was at the combine press conference. They're talking about protecting Josh Allen from himself. And you saw the additions that they had by getting Aaron Cromer and then bringing Roger Saffold here. So there was a concerted effort in the offseason to try to bring more balance to the offense. And even Sean McDermott has said, you know what, our design is to rebrand this offense a little bit. And so he was really trying to do it. So I'm glad that they're finally doing it to a degree. I wish they would do it a little bit more. Not that I say, hey, let's go to a ground and pound offense and take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, but to have that balance where you're not having to rely on Josh as much, especially considering that the man is dealing with the shoulder injury. It's good to know that you can turn around and hand the ball off and then turn it on, let Josh Allen in the playoffs unzip that thing and show that Superman chest, right? You know what I'm saying? And turn it on, in the playoffs when we need it the most.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I think the other part about it is you have to think, it doesn't matter what they call. Josh is a man of a man amongst little kids at this point.
Yeah.
And you can tell him all you want to throw the ball, but I guarantee you, he's sitting there telling Ken Dorsey in his headset, he's like, Ken, shut up. I'm just running. I don't care. I'm going to get the first down, because you've seen,
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh,
You've seen him take over games and say, you know what, F this. I'm done. I'm carrying the team.
He's doing it.
Go get first down.
I think he can now, though. I think that's where Josh is now this season. Especially, I think that's part of the reason why he wanted Ken as the OC, is so that he has that relationship. So he, can basically say, no, I'm taking this game over. So I'm glad we have the continuity though with Dorsey. I've been frustrated with him a couple of times, and I'm a Ken Dorsey fan. I went to school with him at so at the same time. So I'm definitely a huge Ken Dorsey fan, but it's been some frustrations. I loved all I rewatched the game today, so I loved all the camera views of them in the box, and you can see every time
the interception. Oh,
yes.
Man, he's pissed.
and Gabe's fumble. And just looking at his face, I was like, he's still a player in heart. So I love it.
Yeah. I like his fire. I do. I hate that. What happened earlier in the year kind of.
I loved it.
I love it for myself, but I hate that they kind of made it a big thing, and so now it's almost like he's being a little bit more reserved, But no, man, I like that fire.
I love it.
Yeah,
I agree. By the way, that also means you went to school with Aaron Hernandez, so that was interesting.
No, Aaron Hernandez was a Gator. I was a Hurricane. Aaron Hernandez went to UF. Yeah.
Oh, right, that's right. Who am I? No, it's who's the other tight end? Not Hernandez. His father played in the NFL as well. He was on that team, I believe, right?
Olsen was on the team back then. I'm trying to think.
He's in
back
jail
then. Oh no. I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
I don't know. Okay, let me know.
That being said, Ian, let's go ahead and throw out our weekly segment.
Damn!
Tonight's Damn Award recipient is the most Florida man ever to exist, Gardner Minshew. In a bit of a departure from normal focus of this segment, being dumb shit that makes us laugh and say, damn, we tip our trucker hat and raise a glass of Natty Light in respect to the jockstrap king himself for fully committing to the bit of becoming Uncle Rico. This week, Mr. Minshew was discovered to have been living on a decommissioned prison bus through the offseason leading into OTAs, and what we speculate was the experience living in a van down by the river. The man's dedication to a redneck Mr. Miyagi-esque training routine, and someone so dedicated to representing did I just mess that up? I did. My apologies. Mr. Miyagi-esque training routine and lifestyle does cause us to scratch our heads at the idea of a team from Florida trading away someone so dedicated to representing their state. Surprisingly, Minshew once turned down $1 million contract to be endorsed by an adult live streaming site that will remain unnamed to protect the monetization of this podcast. So, for his dedication to representing a lifestyle that enjoys the finer things in life, like getting hammered off PBR around a bonfire in the middle of a farm field, we have no choice to award Gardner Minshew our coveted Damn Award.
Nice. Minshew is he's like Fitzpatrick 2.0.
Yeah.
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 There it is. Kellen Winslow.
Yeah,
is who,
I'm surprised. I did not know that Winslow was in jail, but all right.
yeah,
But
he
I
got
think he was a
into
couple of years after me. I think Kellen is a little younger than I am.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
We do have a super chat real quick. Why the hell is Elam not starting over Jackson? I am getting pissed at either McDermott or Frazier. He's a way better athlete. Cincy will kill Dane. So let's talk about that. Actually, let's table this, guys, and think about this real quick. What is your reaction to Elam not getting as much play time? Now I'm going to go back to that snap count real quick. Will you guys chalk this up? What do you guys think about the fact that Dane Jackson continually is getting playtime over Elam?
Sarah.
Well, I mean, I was looking at it today, and I actually was surprised by because as much as I want to scream and yell at Dane Jackson, I was looking at his pass defense and how many basically how many passes he's defended and everything. And I was actually surprised he's got one of the highest counts on on the team. But that just goes to show how much they're throwing at him and how much he's been on the field. It's been a frustrating year watching him play. But obviously the team sees something with Elam that we're not seeing. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we were kind of, wow, Benford's, breaking out more than Elam is. And, I think that right now he just hasn't been able to really, find his groove yet. But we're going to need him this week. And I think that, I was kind of, looking at everything today and, Cincinnati's wide receivers, they're all tall. He's taller. So I think that we're really going to need him out there. So I think he'll get a higher snap count. Hopefully he's showing something that he'll be able to get back out there. But, as much as we all love Dane, for what it is, he's just not the answer out there. So
Sarah, I'm gonna say it like this. I think what McDermott is doing with Elam is absolute atrocious. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. I can't stand it. He's tinkering with this guy. I don't know what. Maybe you're right, Sarah. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know. But I don't care because it's ridiculous. This guy was drafted in the first round. How long have we been waiting for Brandon Beane to invest high capital, draft capital in a cornerback too? For so long, we've been dealing with the likes of guys, 6th round draft picks, undrafted guys, Levi Wallace. He finally went ahead and invested in a guy in Kaiir Elam out of Florida. A guy who's a big-bodied, physical cornerback, press man guy, right? That we need in this scheme. And all of a sudden, Sean McDermott decides that for whatever the case may be, he wants to sit him and play Dane Jackson instead. Now, I get it. Dane Jackson has more experience. He's used to Dane. He trusts him. But you don't draft a guy in round one and sit him on the bench for Dane Jackson. And especially, he's been getting cooked since Jacoby Brissett. Okay, yeah. And he has not looked very good since then. Granted, yeah, then maybe times here and there where he has a pass defense there, but by and large, he has looked very, 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 very bad in my opinion. And meanwhile, here is your first round cornerback in the doghouse. That's all I can call it. He's in the doghouse. He was inactive, right? Because McDermott said, hey, I want to activate Xavier Rhodes because I want to see what I have in Xavier Rhodes. This guy that you brought and put him on the practice squad. And then the week later, okay, Xavier goes back to the practice squad. Kaiir Elam is brought up. He doesn't play. He does not play whatsoever. Okay. Why, Sean? What are you doing? And now we want to talk about his development or whatever the case may be. Look, could it be that he's not fully developed because you're not putting him on the field? You know what I'm saying? If you put him in the field since day one, take your lumps with him. Take your lumps this season and see where he stands at this time right now. There's other rookie cornerbacks who are looking very good. You got Tariq Woolen, who I wanted, by the way. Tariq Woolen out there in Seattle was a 5th round draft pick, and he's looking as good as he is now. I mean, come on, Sean. I don't know what you're tinkering just like you used to tinker with the offensive line. Stop it. Put Kaiir Elam in. But now it's almost like bad because now you get the playoffs and you need a guy with more experience. So almost like by default, you're going to have to lean on Dane Jackson more. It's to nobody else's fault but Sean McDermott, in my opinion, unless he says something else, which we know he won't.
Right. We had some good comments on here. Daryl, Dane is good position in most cases, just terrible ball skills. And he's more of a press man cover. That was actually what I was going to say myself.
Yeah.
Coming out of college, he is a press man cover or press man corner. where we play more of a nickel zone, a 2 high shell. So for us, it's very, very different. And I think my guess was they thought out of training camp they'd be able to get him converted, get him more comfortable. It just hasn't happened as quickly. But what I will say is looking at the snap count this past week, Dane Jackson played 37 snaps for 59%. Kyrie Elam played 30 snaps for 48%. So he wasn't crazy behind. He only played 7 less snaps in the game. But what I will say is it definitely is something that I think is potentially trending in the right direction. But we've seen very quickly Dane has just been a massive liability. And, I think multiple people have said, if you look at it, his ball skills are just unfortunately not playing to par or up to snuff. And then we actually have a couple super chats real quick. Will Trey White be able to shut down Jamar Chase? Well, we'll say this, and I'm gonna put this up and just say this as plainly as possible. No one can shut down Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
No.
So, and I think the problem is right now we might just have to be real to ourselves and realize Trey White is not Trey White this season, and he's not.
He's not.
I don't even think he's half a Trey White right now, and
No,
I've noticed. Granted, I'm going to give him as much leeway as possible because he is coming back from his knee injury, but he's getting cooked. I mean, last week granted it was Tyreek Hill. It was Tyreek Hill, but there was several times, and Waddle made him. Oh, it was terrible. It was just there was a couple of, and granted he had one really good play which made us forget all about it, and it was the same thing Saturday. He got played quite a few times, and then he had one big play, and then it was like, oh, Trey White's back. And it's like, well, wait a second. How many times did they throw at him? I mean, how many times was he targeted? And like he just does not look all right. And I am really worried because Cincinnati has 3 really good wide receivers, and we're gonna look. I'm a little nervous about. I really am. I'm a little nervous, and they've had a decent tight end too. That I think he scored 2 touchdowns last week. So we have 4 people that we really have to worry about. Covering. So I'm not looking forward to that part.
Sarah, I couldn't agree with you more, especially this matchup. I'm glad you mentioned it because Trey, he just hasn't been looking good. He hasn't. Who was that? Pettis or something? Is that who the guy was that he got the? Who's that?
Pettis.
Yeah,
Dante Pettis was. Hold on. Let's not discredit. Dante Pettis was fantastic in San Francisco, and I believe he was in Jacksonville for a hot minute. I think it was somewhere down south. Didn't work out.
Sarah's not
ended up where he's at. Not a Dante Pettis fan. I thought he actually looked good for a couple of years now.
I mean, but Trey's supposed to be, he's supposed to be the CB1. He's supposed to be covering all of the number 1 wide receivers and making them look terrible. That's what he did for years. So I'm a little nervous when it comes. I don't.
I think not even the number 1.
Yeah, and I honestly think that Chase and Jefferson are the 2 best wide receivers.
Oh my gosh.
In the NFL. Diggs I would put as 3rd. And I would say Tyreek Hill is 4th, but I think that Chase and Jefferson are the 2 hardest covers in the NFL. So I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, our cornerbacks they're going to have their hands full, and I can just see Sean McDermott just trotting out Dane Jackson up there against T Higgins or something, and he's going to get cooked so badly. It's because I'm not looking forward to that at all.
I do have to throw this one super chat up by James. Preach it, Rev. I am going to agree with that. I will have to. There's no slander. And my wife will get mad. She loves Sean McDermott. That is her guy.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Do I think sometimes Sean McDermott does things like challenges that are not great? For sure.
Yeah.
It's probably the worst, except for he had a really good challenge.
He had a really good on Saturday. I was so happy.
Normally he is. When he did it, I was like, oh shit.
I was shocked that he actually got it. I was like, oh my gosh, he won. He did.
I mean, but it was clear. It was clear that it was absolutely it was a stop. So
it was a good. It was an absolutely good challenge. But here's the thing, guys. We gotta take a step back, right? I know it gets frustrating sometimes, and I'm gonna say this to people in chat, James. Look at where we are right now. We could have the likes of Rex Ryan. We could have Greg Williams. We could have Dick Duran. We could have there. I mean, there's a litany
Nathaniel
of quarterbacks
Hackett.
or coaches.
I was saying, I was like, let it too soon.
Oh, say
Right,
the noise.
There is a litany
go,
of
Dave.
different guys that we can have. But here's the other part about this. What Sean McDermott has been able, and we talked about this earlier,
Yeah.
his ability to get through this season and have this team at 12-3 with everything they've gone through, more injuries than they've had since his here. You can't say anything, but this guy has been unbelievable. And obviously that starts with Brandon Beane and the team that he's built. But it doesn't matter how good of a team is built if you don't have a good coach at the helm.
Yeah. And I will say this. I will say this one thing quickly, because I posted it on Twitter the other day, right after the game. Not a lot of head coaches will go up to the defensive line or offensive line and coach during the game. They're worried about the game. After the first drive where they weren't doing well, he went up and talked to them all. He literally one by one, he was talking to them, telling them certain things. And then after the next drive, when we stopped them, he went up and did the same thing and was literally coaching them up. I love that because, the game's going on and we're 20 seconds into, commercial, and he's out there coaching the line. And I just love seeing him do that. He cares so much. And I can be so ticked off with him all the time, but I love, there you go. I love how passionate he gets about everything. So, I get frustrated with him as well, but I love him as our coach.
Oh yeah, I don't want anything more than Sean McDermott. I think he's been the best thing that's happened to Buffalo, not just the Bills, but the entire organization, the city of Buffalo, all that, in a very, very, very long time. I mean, and let's give our flowers to Sean McDermott. I mean, what he's done, right? 5 playoff appearances in the 6 seasons, right, with the Bills, 4 straight playoff berths, 1 AFC Championship appearance, and 3 consecutive division titles. Sign me up for that all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? And so I much appreciate Sean McDermott for what he's done for the Bills organization. I don't want anybody else besides him. Now let's add a Super Bowl championship to his resume.
Yes.
Couldn't
in my lifetime. I need one.
Oh yes, yeah, we got to have it. We're getting this year.
We are. All right. Speak it into existence.
Yes.
By the way, guys, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you smash that like button. We truly appreciate it. And everybody that's in here tonight, there's a ton of chat. We love you guys. Keep going. If we lose our first playoff game, higher right, man. James, you are going full bore right now, pedal to the metal on here. I'll tell you.
Talking about the OC?
Are you talking about offensive coordinator? Or are you talking about head coach? Because I really want to hear.
Surely he's talking about OC, right?
Yeah.
If it's OC, here. Okay, so we're probably gonna go a few minutes long because I have one last thing here after this, but. I will say I'm very interested to see how the season goes in terms of Dorsey, how it plays out with the rest into the playoffs. I personally don't think that you need to get rid of Dorsey. I think after this past game, he showed his ability to adjust, to reconvene, and go out there and put a really nice game plan in that second half. And that's incredibly important. And if you can do that, I think you can grow as a coach. I think that he deserves another year, truthfully. At the very minimum, just purely based on what we've seen so far. He needs more time with Josh. The injuries have been brutal for him in terms of the offensive line. I mean, you saw this week. It's literally just guys running in and out of the offensive line. I'm not sure I truly want to see anybody. Would I like to see Wright come in some capacity as one of those bona fide, give him a title type of coaches? Sure.
Yeah.
Why the hell not? I think it'd be great. But in terms of if we lose a playoff game, which we're not, bring him in. I don't know. I mean, you're talking about a pretty drastic decision and here's the other thing we have to talk about. You're going to get rid of the offensive coordinator that was handpicked by your franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
That's not going to fly.
Yeah. I think the only way that happens is if Dorsey gets an offer elsewhere as a head coach. And I don't think that he's had a good enough of a season yet, to prove that he's ready for that. I know a lot of people thought that he might get poached, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I always say one more year, at least one more year.
Yeah, he needs one more year. As much as I get on him, I don't think it's the right decision to move away from right now, especially like you said, Thomas, which is so true. Like Josh Allen, he runs that franchise. I mean, we know it, right? He handpicked him. You're not getting rid of his guy to bring in somebody he doesn't know. It's just not happening.
Absolutely. Now, guys, for the final topic for tonight's show, Monday night, again, we play in prime time because they never want us to sleep. Monday, we play what could be the most important matchup to date and potentially the most important game since the McDermott era has arrived in Buffalo, New York. What do you two think needs to happen on Monday Night Football in order for the Bills to take down the Bengals and be victorious heading into the last week of the season?
Okay, let me tackle this real quick. For me, first of all, we have to, and I mean absolutely have to, find a way to be creative on defense to stop or you really can't stop them, but to slow them down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You got Jamar, like Sarah mentioned, Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd. You know, that matchup alone against our cornerbacks, the struggling Tre'Davious White coming back off of ACL injury. You've got Dane Jackson, who's been torched by everybody. You've got a rookie who's having minimal experience. It's going to be tough sledding, so you're going to need some additional help. Maybe drop some more blitzes or try to get Joe Burrow off his spot a little bit. It's going to be difficult. It really is going to be difficult. I think what's best for us as fans is just expect a high scoring game.
Yep.
It's okay. just go ahead and expect it right now. Okay. Because it's going to be hard for the Bills defense to slow these guys down. And offensively, we need Josh in this offense to come alive like they've never come alive before. I mean, because we cannot have Josh Allen throwing these interceptions like he did last week. I mean, well, this past weekend, right? We can't have that. We can't have these spats when you score a touchdown and then you go 3 possessions where you have a punt and an interception or whatever the case may be. No, we have to be on our P's and Q's all game long if we expect to keep it up with this guy, because this is the number 1 seed, right? Can we all agree? Like this is for the number 1 seed, and we need the Bills to play an A+ game.
Yeah. And I hate to echo what Rever's saying, but that's exactly what it is. I mean, we need to protect the ball and we need to score and have the offense the way we did the first, few weeks of the season. That's kind of what we need to look like when we go out there. We, every drive, it was just, on it. And that's kind of what we have to, do here. I agree. It's going to be a high scoring game. And, jokingly, I was talking about it the other day. Whoever scores once more is going to be the victor. So I think that that's what it's going to end up coming down to is, whoever scores less points, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be whoever's the last one that has the ball that scores. So it'll be a high scoring game, and we have to protect the ball. I think defensively, there's only so much you can do to control their offensive weapons. They just have too many to go around. Even when Chase was out for those 3 or 4 games, I think it was 4 games, they went 3-1. So it's at this point in time they've won 7 in a row. We've won 6 in a row. They're kind of set up a lot like we are. I think our defense is a little bit better. On the line, I think that we stack up a little bit better, but I honestly think that our corners have been tested a little too much this year. So and then offensively, I think we're pretty on par with them when we're on our game. When we're not on our game, we struggle. It's we can't have this 150 179 yards passing. It's got to be the Josh that's 300 in a couple of touchdowns. So that's what we're going to need, and no turnovers. None.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no turnovers. Like he has to light it up. Like I'm looking right now, SI.com. They said that the Bills are opened up as a 1.5 point favorite. Look, in a game with over under set at 49.5 points.
Yep.
So like they're already expecting high flying, high scoring.
I think DraftKings has them as a 1 point favorite, but it's about the same. I think that it's going to be like 37-35 or 38-35. Like I think it's going to be very close but high scoring.
Yeah, whoever has the ball last, that final
that's
possession.
What I said, yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think the key to this game is who plays the most complete game, because that's something we've seen from both teams. Is both teams are fluky. They're hot and cold. We saw the Bengals when they played the Buccaneers just recently. They came out and laid an egg in the first half and then came alive in the second half. Bills did the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
We've seen the Bills come alive in certain games and just fall apart like the Vikings game, right? Bengals have done the exact same thing. And then if you look at the scores alone, the Bengals have had a lot of games since November 27th, 20 points against the Titans, 27 against the Chiefs, 23 against the Browns, 34 against the Buccaneers, and then 22 against the Patriots. and they got lucky as all hell that they walked out of that
Against the
Patriots
Chiefs.
game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, realistically, and I've said this, if the Bills play the way they can play and they play a competent, consistent, error-free game, the Bills will win because the Bills in totality are a better team.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
They on every facet of that game. How often do you see the special teams as bad as they were last week? Doesn't happen. How often do you see Tyler Bass miss as many kicks as he did? Doesn't happen. The defense was getting shredded a couple weeks ago. That hasn't happened recently. And now the offense seems to be kind of getting into rhythm. So if all those things come together and you're seeing better decisions, better game plans, Ken Dorsey coming up with some wrinkles that are maybe getting a little bit more creative, because I personally think that maybe McDermott said, listen, let's stop being so tight to the vest with this game plan. Open the shit up. We got to start rolling. We got to start get this train moving in the right direction. I think you're going to start seeing an offense that's going to be high scoring going forward. The Bills are a little bit more consistent, a little bit more comfortable. And here's the other part about it is it's not going to be nearly as cold.
No, Thomas, go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean, to interrupt you, man.
No. I was just to say, I'm interested to see. I'm going to take a look real quick. So go ahead. I'm going to see what the temperature in Cincinnati is, because this Saturday in Rochester, it's going to be 52 degrees. So we'll see.
Oh man! Now you had mentioned something that really just stood out to me, and I think I don't know if there's any Bills Mafia conspiracy theorists out here about the offensive game plan here or not, because I think for some people I've been thinking about it too. It's like I'm wondering how much of this offense has Ken Dorsey, just like you had mentioned, held closer to the vest for the playoffs, just waiting for the playoffs to break open some of this stuff, and it's like that's a thread I'm holding on to, right? Because I've been dying for this offense to come alive, and I'm like, maybe it's because he's waiting for the playoffs, and so I think this game is going to be a playoff primer, and so we should see some of those plays that we haven't been seeing in a while start to pop up and let everybody know, hey, you know what? Because this is what I want. I want the Bills to have a statement game, even if it's a high-scoring game. I want the offense to have a statement game saying, hey, we are that same team that you guys saw last year in the playoffs and even the first half of this season. We're still that team. We just found a different way to win when we needed to, but don't trip. We can still put them up on you if we need to.
So, Rev, I've joked with Jerry Ostrowski about the same thing, about it being, they're holding on to the play. He's like, trust me, as a former player, they are not holding on to the playbook. They want to make sure it's going to work before, they put it to test in the playoffs. So I've joked the same thing. I was kind of one of the conspiracy theorists. They were like, nah, they're holding on to it until the end of the year. Seems like we get our running game together towards the last, 3, 4, or 5 games at the end of the year too. So I was joked about it just 2 weeks ago, and he was like, no. They trust me, they want it out there before the playoffs. So we'll see, But
listen, Sarah, don't stomp on our dreams, okay?
Right.
No, that being said, guys,
I think it's going to be good.
It's going to be 56 degrees in
Cincinnati
on Monday night. You couldn't ask for better weather for Josh Allen.
I might have to go in a tank top. I'm gonna leave my winter jacket in the car.
Are you going to the game?
Of course, yeah. That'll be my 38th straight.
Wow.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Benny Jr. over here.
Good for you.
That's fantastic. So that being said, we're gonna wrap this show up. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you too on a Monday night, right after Christmas, popping in here. Christmas. I can't talk. It's okay. Guys, go ahead and tell people where they can find your fantastic content.
Go ahead, Sarah.
All right. You guys can find me on Thursday nights at 9:00 on the 3-Man Rush, and on Twitter at Sarah_Larson. And then on Facebook, I have the Buffalo Bills Stampede.
And you guys can find me with the Buffalo Fanatics Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel, show called RatedRev. And you can follow me on Twitter. Please hook me up. I need some more follows. Okay, at RatedRev on Twitter. And you can find me on Instagram as well at RatedRev.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check these two out. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic content. I only bring on the best, truthfully. The reason I do this, I bring people on that like you guys. It gives me something to talk about, man. I get to talk to awesome people on a Monday night. But guys, make sure that you guys are checking out all the content all across the board.
Oh yeah.
I truly believe the Buffalo Bills have some of the best content creators in the business all across the board, whether it's Fanatics, Rumblings, Cover One, a lot of really good people out there with some really, really good content to deliver. And obviously check out Buffalo Rumblings right here. You can check out Buffalo Late Night every Monday night, 9:30 Eastern here on Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. Also, make sure you check out the Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show hosted by yours truly, following every Bills game, as well as I guess I'm doing like a halftime thing. It's like 12 minutes last week. We'll see. We'll see if that continues. It was fun while we did it for a little bit. But guys, I truly do appreciate you guys stopping in every single week to give us a little bit of your time. All the comments, it's been fantastic this week. All the super chats.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys stop back every single week. We'd love to hear from you. Some fantastic stuff coming forward. But I truly, truly appreciate everybody here stopping in. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. I am at the Thomas DeLoss. I am obviously the host, Thomas DeLoss. And as always, we're going to start this as we always finish it. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
The Bills make me wanna.